Hello, and welcome back to the Dialogue Lab, the show where we talk about nothing and everything and anything in between. I'm your host, Creations Lab, joining me with Soup Can, our co-host.
Hello, Creations Lab.
Hello. Today's topic, we will be talking about, unsurprisingly, our favorite video games. It's going to be pretty good, it's going to be pretty exciting, and I think there's a lot of rich content here that we both have qualifications to talk about. It's something that um, I thought would be a good point to start from because we both have experience in that area. We both have a lot of favorites. So yeah, let's get into it.
Unfortunately, Torable couldn't join us for this. He's,
Yes, yes,
I guess we can catch him next time.
yeah. Last episode was pretty enjoyable with Torable here
He's
as
a
our
great guy.
fine guest.
I know him personally. He's pretty cool.
He is. All right. So Soup, can you want to kick us off with a game that you enjoy or just an experience?
Well, in fact, it's the game I'm playing at this very moment. Elden Ring. Elden Ring's by From Software. It's one of those. It's basically an RPG, but it's more open world than RPG. So From Software makes like Dark Souls and Bloodborne and stuff. This is basically just, I think, easier Dark Souls and Bloodborne. Like, I've beaten this game a couple times over now. I know I would die miserably in any Bloodborne or Dark Souls game, but this has been one of my favorites recently. I like it a lot. Uh,
Nice.
I can talk about the story, I guess, a little bit. So basically, you're like this dude, right? And so there's like this god, and she like basically it's a bit like Lord of the Rings. Okay, so there's this god, right? And she has this like ring or something that like gives her like power to rule over the map, which is called the Lands Between. But regardless, so basically she has this son who gets like assassinated. I forgot to mention the the map the lore's kind of like Habsburg Austria because
Ah, nice.
this lady has had like two husbands and like has like nine stepchildren, right? And so basically her favorite child gets killed by one of her other children, and so she kind of just breaks the Elden Ring. And the Elden Ring is like all the power in the world, right? So all like the demigods that are the gods like kids, they all fight for like shards of the ring. So it's kind of like, I mean, it's kind of like Lord of the Ring, but it's kind of not. I'm not sure what to compare it to, but that's kind of what it reminds me of, considering the fact that power is like through the ring. But regardless, and then you just have to basically, it's your job as like this dude to kill all the demigods and become Elden Lord and become that lady's third husband, because apparently that's just the thing to do. Personally, to me, it never made sense. So why would she even want you to be like your husband, right? Because it's like, I killed all nine of your children. Will you marry me? That
Oh,
never made.
fun.
I mean, does that make sense to you?
Yeah, no, that's a contradiction
It's
somehow,
just a tad bit confusing, don't you
just a
think?
little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, that's basically the game, and then there's a bunch of different endings you can get.
So explain to me, like, what one does throughout the journeys of the game.
Okay, so basically you just go to all the different parts of the map and kill all the demigods. That's pretty much the point. You can do all sorts of different endings. I'm going for one right now, which is just a reskin of the basic ending where I think I become like Lord of the Undead or something. It's kind of cool.
Nice.
But
So it's pretty fantasy-ish, right?
yes, very. It's it's incredibly fantasy-ish. Yeah, I'm fighting a giant troll dude as we speak.
Yeah, this is very it's a very immersive episode because Soupcan's literally immersed in the game experience as he's describing it. It's pretty good.
Yeah, I can describe it. This is literally firsthand experience.
Firsthand. Yep.
Regardless,
All right. Do you have anything else to add about Elden Ring?
not in particular. I recommend the game.
All right. And by the way, how would you, if this was gonna be like a tier list, where would you put Elden Ring?
Oh, honestly, it's for me. It's an S. It's an S tier. Elden Ring.
Okay, nice.
It's good. It really depends on your playstyle. If you're not into like the grindy games that are actually hard to beat, it's not a good one to play.
Would you say this is? Would you say this is like part of like your taste or like kind of your personality? Does it like match that?
I kind of grew into it. I got it because Torval recommended it to me, and I like the idea and the lore of it, and the graphics are excellent. So I thought, hey, what's the hurt in getting the game? And now I'm kind of hooked on it.
Yeah,
Honestly, good.
nice. Pretty good. Um, all right. If that's um if that's it, then I guess I guess we can take turns.
Yeah. What games do you play?
So I'll get into the other ones, but I guess I'll just jump in with one that I'm not like that old to. Like I'm pretty new to it in terms of like the long run, but it's very entertaining to me and it's the first video game ever that I was like okay, this is like actually something more. Like this is fun to me like in a different way. It's not just fun because it's like something to pass the time. It's like something cool that is like it fits me. Like it fits my personality, which game I'm talking about is Overwatch 2. Um and funny enough, I've never played it on the way it's meant to be played, which is PC, because surprise, I don't have a PC. um So I'm a Mac gamer, which means I'm not a gamer. So
Bro,
basically, uh, yeah, no, I've never really been like a gamer. Like I've just been a kid who's a nerd. But like the only video game I used to play ever for like the longest time was Minecraft Pocket Edition. Like that was the only thing I knew how to play. Because I didn't really care about video games. But Overwatch 2 is very interesting. So actually, I'm going to give you the background on it. It's a first-person shooter sci-fi fantasy game by Blizzard Entertainment. Overwatch 1 came out in 2016 and Overwatch 2 came out in 2022, which was when I downloaded it and when I learned about it. Um, it's essentially it's a first-person shooter kind of based off of the tactics and gameplay of Team Fortress 2 and Counter Strike Global Offensive a little bit, but not that much. It's more kind of based off of TF2 a little bit. The game mechanics, not the plot or anything. But essentially it's essentially you get to pick from a roster of like 40 characters or like 35 characters and something like that. And they're split into three different categories. So there's tank heroes, there's damage heroes, and there's support heroes. Tank heroes are like big, beefy people who like beat you up really bad. Um, that's for a lack of a better word. Damage heroes are basically people who just give you a lot of damage, and they're like mid-sized people, and they're good at like sort of like I don't know. It's complicated, but that's just one grouping. And then the last grouping is support, which is kind of exactly what it's called. Heal you. They're heal. And I'd like to say it's kind of based on the healer from
the medic.
characters that are healers. The medic, not the healer.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. The medic from TF2. Um, yeah. So Overwatch, basically the lore of it is not that relevant to the game because it's obviously not like a story game. The only part of the game that's a story game is the PvE mode, player versus everyone mode, which came out
I
like
heard that was like
early last year.
I heard it was like disappointing in news.
It is
I
disappointing, but not because of the content. It's disappointing because Blizzard is greedy. Unfortunately, I have to say that. And they're going to be even greedier because they got bought by Microsoft. So, oops. But um,
that's always
basically, yeah, that
because
was a blow to Windows. What? So yeah, Windows. Uh-oh. But basically, yeah. So it's the PvE mode is the story mode. Basically, it's like you go on missions with other characters, but it's still with other people. You're still interacting with other people. It's just less people, and it's more personal because it's like you're fighting armies of robots or whatever. In Overwatch, it's robots are called um what are they called? I can't remember what they're called. I haven't played it in a long time. Um okay, I'm embarrassing myself, but I forgot the word. But so the lore is basically it's set in the near future where that's what it's the Omnics is what the robots are called. So the story is that people artificial intelligence has controlled people and the world, and basically the military is trying to get rid of these robots because it's kind of like a Terminator scenario, except that Terminator has access to like nukes and they don't. The Omnics don't. They're kind of just an army. And so there's kind of two rebellions that go on. Like there's two sides. One of them is a rebellion, and one of them is just like a hero group. So the first hero group is the titular group, Overwatch. That's what the group is called, the Overwatch. And then their enemy sort of is called Talon, like Talon, like a bird's talons. Like they're basically evil people, but they they weirdly enough they have robots in them. They have Omnics like in the group, and they kind of just want to destroy Overwatch because they just hate people for some reason. And so there's two characters who are basically fundamental to the game's lore, Reaper and Soldier 76, not to be confused with the Soldier from TF2,
ah
which kind of are completely different because they're pretty different. But so Soldier and Reaper both, in terms of like their gameplay, like their characters in the game, they are both like they both shoot with guns, and they're both mainly focused on like shooting and um, sniping and stuff. Reaper is a little bit more ability focused. He's more like magic focused, less on like shoot 'em up. Because like Soldier 76 is really focused on like he's like a military guy, kind of like Captain America, but like weirder. So he's kind of like alternate Captain America a little bit. Um, so he just like has a gun and he shoots people, and he's kind of like the American man. And death. Reaper the persona. Basically, he's just this guy who hates people and he just wants everything to die. In fact, his catchphrase is "die, die, die." Um, fitting. So cool when um your family hears that when you're playing that. So they associate Overwatch with that phrase. So they're just like, "Oh, are you playing the die, die, die game again?" Like
wow.
that's literally what they of it. Like my dad's like, "Oh, was that the die 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 game?" characters were and then they like had some sort of disagreement and they separated, and now they're at odds because Soldier runs Overwatch and Reaper runs Talon. And yeah, they're kind of evil, but there's a lot of in the game itself, it doesn't actually focus on whether or not people are good or bad because obviously you're able to pick every character, so it would be weird if you were on the bad side. That doesn't make sense, but yeah. So anyway, long story short, it's a game where you kill people and you try to in a way in different ways. So like you can either hold off like a point in the battleground for like a while. You just have to like be able to hold it off, or you have to get a truck full of a payload to the other side of the map. And this is heavily influenced by TF2 again, but
Yes.
it's the way that they portray it in terms of like the art style and the themes and like the characters and stuff is different than TF2 quite significantly. They're very
You
different games, but they're very similar in terms of like the gameplay and the way it works. So, yeah.
honestly, the people in Overwatch look like they're from Fortnite.
So, so to an eye that has looked at a lot of TF2 gameplay, I feel like you're right, but to me, it's not because, well, kind of. I mean, so I never played Fortnite, and I don't want to because it's one of those games where it doesn't have a point, right? Like all the games, we kind of chatted about this earlier, but in my experience, which I have none, but like in my taste, um, games that have a point, I'm gonna, I might want to play. Games that don't even have a point and they're just like abstract and just random, I don't really care for because they kind of don't matter. But like, and so that's why I stopped playing Minecraft Survival because it's just kind of takes up too much of my time, and I would rather just build, which I do. I build in Minecraft, but not that often because building is actually a useful thing. But like games like Geometry Dash, unfortunately, I just don't want to. Like for one, it's kind of hard for me, and two, it literally has no point. It's just a square that you have to bounce. um, okay, so I'm kind of done with that rant, but Soup Can, if you have something next, then go ahead.
Well, do you happen to play virtual reality?
I just so happen to crazy. It's kind of crazy. I do play virtual reality. It's so weird that you happen to mention that.
Wow, it's absolutely crazy.
It's just such a coincidence.
Totally like we didn't practice going over the topics before.
It's totally like we didn't, talk about this
Yeah,
at all before we started.
yeah, it's so uncanny, isn't it?
It's so crazy. So, virtual reality.
Right.
It's a crazy.
So I believe you and
So
I.
we both have
Yeah, we both have some of the same games, don't we?
some of the same games. I was gonna say we both have very similar VR headsets because I have the Quest 3 and this lad has the Quest 2,
Indeed, I do. I
which
have.
I have not had it for long. It was in fact a Christmas gift
From whom?
from um the people who created me.
Well,
In
that
other
kind
words, my parents. So
of. I was wondering what you mean by created you.
well, they did.
There's a lot of definitions for created. You could mean
Yeah.
a, you could mean as a person. You can
God, yeah, no, God gave this to me as my
get
birthday.
God's gift.
Oh wait, my birthday? Christmas. What? I don't know. Anyway, um
Christmas. My
Jesus'
mother's
birthday.
getting tabletop roll desk for Christmas. I
What?
know that I asked for a desk for
I
Christmas.
mean, that's not bad.
Yeah, I need one in the room at my house. I'm divorced from two houses, but at my mother's house I don't have a desk, so I
I
need
mean, yeah, that's a good
there.
gift.
And then I'm gonna get myself a laptop.
Yay! Finally,
Yeah.
somebody who's cultured.
Well,
Gosh, at least a laptop.
it's going to be Windows.
Well, yeah, that's where it falls short. But like laptops nonetheless are better because I don't care about freaking graphics, pardon my non-language, but like
Pardon your non-language.
that wasn't that much of language. But
Not
la-
using.
laptops just are way more convenient, at least for what I like to do, because I do graphics and I do videos and editing and stuff, art, miscellaneous visual stuff. Which is kind of yeah, that's what I do most of the time when I'm not like game when I'm not doing games or talking to people or whatever. So I, it's very convenient for me to take that around, and I don't need a million fans and stupid things that I put together and like a huge glass rainbow RGB box that you set on your desk to look cool. That's I hate that for me. I don't think that's cool. I mean, for other people, I'm happy that they have that, but that's not me. So,
Well,
yeah,
yeah, it because I play a lot of video games, and video games means you need money. So not
yeah.
me.
I mean, I see that for people who obviously want to have a good experience with big games or whatever, but I don't do that personally.
I see.
So, virtual reality.
Yes. Uh, so what type of games do you like to do on virtual reality? Are you like a sword fighting guy or what?
So, I believe so. I'm new to it, and I'm still looking for games that are for like kind of fit my enjoyment. And since me and my sister share this thing, she might want something or whatever, but that's not that much of a problem. But I believe we share a game that we both like. I believe we share the game Blade and Sorcery Nomad.
Ah, yes, the game.
The
I have.
game.
Well,
So, Um, would you want to give us a little bit of an introduction about it, and then we can both talk about our experience with it?
okay. Well, basically, it's not a source, a sword fighting game. Hence the name, more or less. I quite like it. There's also sorcery in the game, but personally, I don't use the sorcery.
He just uses the blade,
Yes, or not even a blade. Sometimes just a
just the
chair.
fist. Oh, okay.
You have no clue how many times I've punched my wall playing that game.
Oh, I've
Like,
punched my TV. Okay, like I've broken things, like, and it hasn't even been a month yet. Hasn't been a month with this thing, and I've already like punched my way through the wall. Like,
oh man. I
yeah,
mean, sometimes you just do that. I mean, I
yes,
remember time I got the first when I first got virtual reality, which was like maybe 2021. Uh, I remember I would get so immersed that I would end up, throwing my fist into a wall of bricks
fun.
and messing up my knuckles because of it.
Uh
You
oh.
know, stuff. Everyday occurrence.
So yeah, so I'll talk a little bit about how Blade and Sorcery has affected my life.
Well, we can
um,
talk about like styles or something maybe.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah. So for me, what I what just fits my taste better in the game is I'm glad that it has sorcery. That's kind of where we separate in terms of the gameplay, but I think that's a good thing. I think that's good that we have different um, ways of playing it, and I'm not opposed to sword fighting. I still do that because that's kind of the point of the game. But yeah, basically, there's NPCs who are extremely stupid, who
Yeah,
spawn in different maps, like medieval maps, and you have to kill them in different ways, or you don't have to if you want. You can
you
just
can just
torture them. But
all over and over again if you want, really.
yeah, I personally like using telekinesis to decapitate. I mean, give them a shorter lifespan. So, um,
And their life in a humane manner.
right, that's yeah. It's quick, you know. I don't have a guillotine on hand, so you know, come on.
No.
But yeah. So it's a game made by Leapfrog Entertainment. It's kind of like an indie developer, I think, and it's kind of just like a medieval sandbox game where you kind of just kill people and it's fun because you can do silly things with them. That's what's very interesting about the game is you can like flail people around and it's the funniest thing and they're like really dumb. They'll just like submit to stuff. So it's fun and one feature is you not only with sorcery, by the way, the sorcery involves three elements kind of. There's fire, lightning, and gravity or telekinesis, and so you can use that like on its own just with your hands. But there's like a counter, like when you can get low on magic and you have to switch to fighting like melee and like using swords and stuff. Um, and so you can basically you can imbue your weapons so that they have an enhancement of some kind. So if you imbue your sword with fire, you can kill people and it'll like cook them kind of. Like if you stab them they're in their stomach, you'll it's kind of like they're being cooked alive kind of. But it's yeah, it's really efficient because it's like kind of a hot knife through butter, or in this case a hot knife through person.
Oh,
So, but like lightning is another one you can imbue on your weapon. So like if you imbue your sword with lightning, it just shocks them a lot. Like if you stab them, they just get shocked and fall to the ground, which is kind of fun. But then they get back up because it's temporary, which is kind of annoying. Um, I like to use telekinesis. Just by on its own. You can't really do anything if you imbue your weapon with telekinesis because all it does is just make them like like jump higher. I don't even know what it does, but it just like makes them slower. But uh yeah, one thing that I really like about the telekinesis, and it's kind of hard to do, it's hard to get right, but I enjoy it thoroughly because it just makes it so much funnier. Is when you take two um, balls of gravity in your hands and you combine them and then you pull them apart, you can create this like vortex of anti-gravity where everything is like floating in the air and the people are like flying just like flailing aimlessly and you can like kick them into infinity or you can like sever them. It's so funny. They're helpless. I mean, they can't even do anything. They're just in this bubble. So I don't know if you've ever soup can. I don't know if you've ever tried that before.
yeah, the gravity magic can be pretty goofy like that. But what's really fun is sometimes the physics are super realistic in that game, and other times they're just whack. Like, one funny thing that you can do is if you just basically uppercut with both of your arms, they get sent at terminal velocity, like 30 feet into the air. It makes me laugh every single time. But
That's one of the really good features.
one the way I like really to play the game is I like to do melee stuff. Like, one of my favorite things, I usually like to use swords or really anything with either a longsword or like a shield.
Rapiers.
Uh, honestly, I don't like to. I like to be able to slash. The rapier isn't really my type of thing.
Okay.
I like being able to slash as well. as you know, stab.
Yeah.
Like one of my favorite weapons is definitely the longsword because it gives you some ability to, you have some reach, but it doesn't completely like hinder you from using your weapon one-handed if you really need to.
Yeah.
Uh,
Do you use that like really like short blade thing that like you hold in your hand, like you grip? I don't know
in
how
my
to describe it.
Assassin's Creed dagger thing.
Yeah, that thing.
Honestly, not really. No,
So you're a
I just
sword guy.
I just use usually like the most generic like equipment you can think of, like a sword and shield, and that's it. Like maybe a dagger.
Yeah, I've witnessed your gameplay. It seems like it's kind of of the tune of um fencing.
It's kind of like that. I occasionally I try and study up like on it. Like one time, I literally watched a video on longsword fencing, and it's actually kind of cool. There's actually a lot of techniques, and I've been trying to practice them there. Although that's not really a very useful skill when you think about it, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean,
Still,
well, it's cool. I think it's cool the art of like martial arts or I don't know what you call that, like sword fighting. But yeah, it's the weapons in that game are pretty extensive. One of them is not actually a weapon. It's purely for I mean, I guess it is if you like whack them in the head, but it's mainly for sorcery. It's the staff. Like there's two different staffs and one of them is like a shaman staff and then the other one's like a normal staff, but they're basically the same. It's just like this crystal that you can imbue and so when you like if you like shoot it at people, it like shoots different things at them. If you slam it on the ground vertically, it like sends a shockwave of whatever your choice of magic is. So like if you imbue it with gravity and you just like slam it on the ground, it will just explode all of your enemies like outward and just like make them flail about. If you do electricity, it shocks them obviously, but it just like sends a huge electricity shockwave. And if you do fire, it like sends out these little pellets of fire that like find your enemy and then kill them. I don't know. I'm a big fan of the sorcery more than the sword fighting, but I still think the weapons are very important to the game.
I
So,
see.
um, all
Uh,
right. Do you have anything else to add?
well, another game I like to play. Speaking of like, so you know how Blade Sorcery kind of a sandbox.
Yeah.
There's a sandbox game that's VR that I like to play. It's called Bone Lab. It's pretty cool. So not too long ago there was a game that came out called Bone Works. It's basically just the sequel of that. It's pretty good actually. I like it. You get to mess around with all sorts of stuff. It's basically Gary's Mod in VR.
Cool. So like explain to me a little bit about like is there a story and like what
Yeah, it's like kind of a story. It's kind of like a techno adventure.
okay.
Like it's got like some cyberpunk element to it, if you ask me.
Mm. What does the word bone come from?
Uh, Probably Latin, knowing words exist because Latin. So who knows,
I
really?
mean, oh, sorry, I meant to be more specific. Like, like
Bro's
what?
asking where bone comes from.
No, like, why did they call it Bone Lab?
Uh, to be honest, I couldn't tell you that. I don't know.
Is it just random? Like, is there something to do with bones in the game?
Uh, Not really. I mean, you
Okay,
can fight skeletons, but they have no real relevance to the lore. If you ask me.
so it's kind of just like futuristic blade and sorcery, or
Uh,
like,
but there's also guns, which makes it really cool.
is it like modern blade and sorcery?
Kinda. There's a lot of cool gunplay. the one thing that sucks is that you don't get everything at once. You have to like explore levels for it and stuff. So you have to find like basically they're like these little capsules, right? And you have to pop them open so you can earn the thing in sandbox. Basically,
Mm,
it's kind of cool.
that sounds very interesting. I don't know if I'm gonna get it yet, but I feel like I might
But
want to because I enjoy Blade and Sorcery.
it's expensive, but I 100% recommend
Yeah,
you out.
it's $40, which is I kind of want to wait a little bit because
Yeah, I would wait. It'll definitely go on down in price. Honestly, it was my silly mistake getting it when it was so expensive.
when how much was it when you got it?
$40. I
Oh.
didn't get it long ago.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. I might get it. I don't know. I'm still on the fence.
I recommend it 100%.
Okay. I oddly get scared by the NPCs in Blade and Sorcery because of the way they just appear behind you sometimes, and I just like I don't like there's just like cold sweat that comes down me because I just like I it's not that it's like horror like scary like that kind of scary. Obviously it's just more like shocking like it just shocks me and
No, it's
like their little grunts are like I don't know, they startle me sometimes.
it's understandable. They tend to appear out of nowhere, especially when you're listening to music. I'd like to play the game while listening to music, and when you don't have sound cues, and when they spawn and they say stuff like "You shouldn't be here,"
Yeah.
they appear out of nowhere, and you end up reflexively stomping on your cat or something.
Yeah, like so
But
I always find myself just like looking around 360 degrees like waiting for somebody to come near me because I hate when they spawn without me knowing and then they just start attacking me from behind. It's like the women who are just like, "Yeah, ah." And it's like, "What are you
yeah,
doing?" And like, "Why do you exist? Like, what is going on?"
I always thought they looked so like all the NPCs look so goofy when they attack. Like you should have seen even then. You should have seen what it looked like before they updated like what the NPCs look like when they attack. Like their arms would flab, they would like go around like noodles. It was funny as crap though.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
and the old way they would block stuff. They don't. To me, it seems like they don't even block things anymore. But the way they used to block things in game was like honestly terrifying. What they would do is like, so like imagine like you're holding out your hand, and then they just turn their wrist like 360.
What the heck?
It always just made me laugh and be so confused at the same time because they were so random. Nothing made sense in the game. Like literally nothing.
Yeah, it feels that way still.
Oh man.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
but
kind of that's something that I would be sad if that didn't exist.
all right. Well, back on topic. So Bone Lab, it's basically just it's kind of like Blade and Sorcery, but it has a lot more of a sandbox element to it. Like you can build things and stuff. I guess it's really more of like a hey, there's this guy. I'm gonna whack him on the head with a sledgehammer type game.
Did they attack you?
Uh, well, there's one NPC that's friendly to you, but everyone else hates you.
Oh, okay. Interesting. So like other than Blade and Sorcery, like what kind of game would you compare it to?
Uh, Gary's mod. It's
Okay. Okay.
kind of like Gary's mod, but
Interesting.
I would recommend it. It's my type of game, which is a goofy game, basically.
Nice. Yeah, I might join you sometime in the future. I don't know.
Cool.
Yeah. So, do you have anything else to say about Bone Lab?
Not in particular, no.
All right. Um, I guess if you want, we could. Okay, I do have one relating to the topic of VR.
Okay.
Which is this is a popular game right now. It's pretty simple in its gameplay and it's the mechanics of it. It's very simple actually. It's just one premise. It's the legendary game, Beat Saber. Um, it's a very simple music game where it's those types of games where you have to match the beat of a song by kind of playing it in a certain way. It's like Guitar Hero, but if it was less guitar-y and it was way more like it's like it's lightsabers that you're like you're chopping these jelly blocks that have certain directions on them that you have to chop them in different directions depending on what they are.
That just sounds like Fruit Ninja.
It's kind of like Fruit Ninja but like drumming. So, yeah,
So it's
it's a
rock,
little bit like that.
so it's like Rock Band and like Dance Dance Revolution mixed with like Fruit Ninja.
Yes, but with lightsabers. um and yeah, so like it's the stereotype is that like there's these weeaboo girls who listen to Imagine Dragons and like stupid nonsense and they are an expert plus level and they win every time. That's kind of the stereotype of like who plays Beat Saber or just like Star Wars nerds or something. Um but I personally really enjoy it. I when I got my Oculus or Meta or whatever, I don't know. But when I got my VR, I that was the first game that I got actually because I was like, okay, I want to try this like instantly. Um, because I have friends who own it, and that's like one of the main games they play. And I thought I would be horrible at it because it seems very like it seems very like focus based, and I don't like I've never been good at that type of game, but surprisingly, I actually like that a lot. I like Beat Saber a lot for two reasons. The first reason is you can there's not an infinite supply of music. You can't just choose any song unless you get mods, then you can. But I'm not able to I don't even know if I'm able to do that. But I kind of don't want to. But you have this catalog of music that they have and you there's a lot of different genres honestly. If you like rock, there's several rock playlists. There's playlists from Green Day, which is personally right now my favorite band, and I do the Green Day ones usually. But there's this rock mixtape one. There's a lot of other rock ones. If you're into pop, uh, just feast upon the plethora of pop that they have. There is just so much pop. There's Lady Gaga, Billie Eilish, literally every pop person ever. They have Imagine Dragons, which I actually have been playing. I got the Imagine Dragons one because I feel like that's kind of fitting to the game. It's kind of a fitting band to the game. The songs kind of fit the style of like how you play the game personally. But that's really the fun part is that you get to choose your own songs. And yes,
Yeah.
they are money, but like a lot of them aren't. A lot of them are free. So,
Well, how many like come with the game?
sorry, can you say that again?
Well, how many come with the game?
Oh, um well, I don't know how many songs in total, but I would say there's probably about 35 music packs, but a lot of them have a lot of different artists. Some of them are like playlists, like mixtapes, and then others are just like a pack from an artist. So like there's a Queen one, uh, you know, Green Day one, and then I don't know all the other ones because I haven't actually touched them, but um, like Lizzo, if you know Lizzo, um,
Uh,
yeah, so there's a lot of different artists you can pick from. There's Dragon Force, I think. If you know who Dragon Force is, I don't know if you know. They're like a heavy metal thing. I don't know, but I don't personally enjoy Dragon Force, but I have a long time favorite, one of my favorite YouTube channels, long time favorite YouTube channel, Steve Terraberry from Canada,
The
and he
guy.
he almost joined Dragon Force, like the band, as their bassist. Um, but he's not actually a bassist by heart. He's a guitarist. But anyway, that's a sidetrack. Sorry, rants. This is what this is for. Tangents. This podcast is for tangents, right? Um, but yeah, so there's a lot of music packs. The second reason why Beat Saber, I haven't even gotten to the second reason yet. Jeez. Um, the second reason why I think this game's really fun is it's just like you get in a zone and you have to be concentrated, but it's really cool. And like at some points you feel so cool for no reason, just because you're like doing all these, you're like chopping all these blocks, and like you're just in this mode of the song. Like you get really into the song. Like if you're doing the American Idiot one, you might get really passionate about destroying the establishment. And then if you are doing the like Lady Gaga Just Dance one, you might really feel like dancing. And then if you do like the one of the Imagine Dragons one, you might feel like imagining about dragons. I don't know what you feel, but you feel something. Like you feel a lot of different emotions when you do that game. It's really just cool cuz like you're already immersed in VR, but then you get immersed into this whole like atmosphere of like music, and it's just like the beat and the rhythm of the game. It's just really cool. It's really immersive. So,
I see. Sorry, I lost connection there for a second.
oh, I didn't I didn't tell.
Well, I'm back now, so no big.
Good.
All right. Well, I never tried Beat Saber, but I've heard good things about it. From the sounds of it, I might actually consider
Please
getting
get
it
it.
after this.
Please try it.
Is there like a multiplayer thing? Not much VR has multiplayer.
So, it's not, unfortunately. I wish there was. But it's yeah, it's definitely an individual thing. But the way that you can I really like being able to share your experience, like if you screen record, that's kind of the way that you show people
Yeah.
your stuff,
The
which is a little bit depressing, but it's cool. It's cool because you get to be in your own world, and if you're an introvert or if you like zoning out into music or whatever, this is really the game for you. I
well,
think, and I this is not just me being basic. Like I actually tried this and I really like it.
don't you have to kind of pay attention because you gotta make sure you're cutting the blocks in the right way and stuff, right?
But by zoning out, I don't mean closing your eyes, but I mean like you're focused on the music exclusively. Like you're in the world of the music.
I see.
So yeah, but you definitely have to pay attention. But it's not as you don't have to be like you don't have to be like a try hard, a sweat about it as much as you might think, because it's actually easier than you might think to like chop the blocks. You just have to pay attention to the rhythm of the song. You just have to chop them to the rhythm of the song. Once because that's really if there wasn't a song, it would be really weird to play that game. Like without music in that game, there's really no point. It's like it would just be arbitrary, and it would be really hard too because you just would have these blocks where that you have no idea when you're supposed to chop these blocks. But with the music, you know exactly when you're supposed to do it because the rhythm of the song, the beat. Sometimes it's off, but usually it's just like to the beat of the song, which is the point. So
Yeah. Well, I would think that's basically what Rock Band is on like the Xbox. Like my ma played Rock Band and I was usually around while she would. And that's basically just Rock Band. You just play to the beat. They have like the guitar instruments and the drums. The drums is what I would play. I was good at the drums. I could not figure out for the life of me how you use the guitar prop.
yeah,
Because not GarageBand. I'm thinking of the fun music software, but how Rock Band worked is you'd have to connect either like a guitar or a drum set that was like a fake one, and then that's how you would like play songs and stuff. And yeah,
That's really cool. I don't have that. I've never really tried anything like that. But yeah, I feel like drummers would have an easy time playing Beat Saber. Um,
probably.
because you're doing exactly what you do when you drum. You chop things with sticks and you make noise to
Keith
the beat of
Richards
a
say
song.
that's an insult.
What?
Keith Richards would not be happy with you after saying that.
No, yeah,
And you know,
I know.
it's
I'm
right,
not a drummer.
drumming does take some skill. You really do have to have things down in your brain
I would
because
say that's pretty obvious. Yeah,
drumming is
that's
actually something that takes a bit more concentration than what you'd expect. Because A, you have to know when to stop doing whatever tempo you're at. B, you need to know exactly when by paying attention to what part of the song your band members are at. And C, it's just sometimes you just need to have that coordination that you sometimes don't.
yeah. I feel like it's pretty like drummers who are really good are very talented people. They're just very good.
Like people think when they just go in, like, oh, this is easy. I just have to hit a piece of like cow skin with a stick. But no, not really. You kind of have to think about what you're doing. You know.
Yeah, I mean, some druggie who goes in and is like, oh, it's like a worry stone. Sorry.
You worry and you worry. Hey,
It's like a worry stone. Sorry, Green Day reference.
hey, Dean.
Yeah, I don't know if this is a phase or not. Anyway,
Hey.
she screams in silence. So
You know, one thing that I always thought looks super complicated is being part of an orchestra. Imagine how like stressful that is. Like just
yeah,
playing your
I mean,
part right.
if you have like the main brass instrument, you're probably like sweating profusely because how I mean, what else are you gonna do? Like that's really stressful unless you're like really good.
Precise.
But yeah, I mean, what about like the composer? Like, what does he think?
Well, I
Probably
always thought
nothing.
the composer's job was easy. Just know the piece. First off, your students have probably studied it over and over again because they're nervous for their little concert. So all you have to do is wave a stick around and do weird hand movements that are more confusing than your average Italian. I don't understand
I know
what any of
exactly.
the movements mean. And then they have the stick. I never knew. I could never comprehend what they.
I think they're supposed to be directing the parts of the orchestra because depending on depending on the percussion and the brass and the wind and whatever whatnot. Um, I believe it's so that everybody's on time and everybody's on their cue and stuff. And when they practice, I assume that the composer kind of puts them on beat and puts them on like their times when they have to come up and stuff. So, but other than that, he's kind of just a magician who likes waving his little fancy magic wand around. So,
Hey Joe, look at this! I can make all these instruments play, bro.
yeah, I know. Um, okay, how do we get there?
Uh, and you may ask yourself, well, how did I get here?
I asked myself that.
Yes. While we're on the
So,
topic of like music, what is like your favorite song of all time, though?
yeah, so this actually could be another episode, but I'm gonna answer that question. My favorite song of all time, um, that's really hard. I would say for anybody, that's pretty hard. But I think, are you asking like my favorite song ever or like right now?
At the current moment, because it always switches.
So my favorite song yeah, there's never a set answer. My favorite song right now, currently. Oh, that's hard. I'm tied between two Green Day songs. I'm tied between Warning by Green Day and One-Eyed Bastard, which came out very recently, like 2 weeks ago. I'm loving it though. It's really good. I don't know why. It's just very. It just hits the spot, like the melody or so. I don't even know what it is. If it's the rhythm, but it it's very appealing to me. But Warning is a song that I listened to the first time I listened to it, I very quickly realized that that was not the first time I had listened to it. That was not the first time because I don't know if you've listened to that song before, Soup Can,
No, I don't think I.
but it basically the main like sort of melody in the background is like and so it's like that and it sounds stupid, but I feel like I had heard that a lot before. Like when I first listened to it, I was like, "Huh." Like I thought I hadn't heard this, but I probably have heard this a lot on the radio. And it's good. It's a good song. It's really so their album Warning came out in 2000. It's probably their most hated album other than Father of All period, which was their second most recent. It was came out in 2020 cuz yeah, that one sucked a lot. Everybody hated that one. But Warning is very underrated. It's like a departure from their regular like punk stuff. They got really into like folksy stuff, like folk rock and like
Wait, are you basically telling me there's a Green Day country album?
it's not country. It's like it's like Beatlesy Green Day.
Well, that's not like Beatles. Beatles music is way different. I would know because my parents had me listening to it since like birth.
Well,
Beatles,
it's Beatles mixed with like folk, but it's still rock. So that's how I describe Warning.
I would have to listen to it to. I would have to listen to it to say what it is.
It's still rock and it still sounds like Green Day and it still sounds kind of punky, but like some songs are more punky than others. But like Minority and Warning are still pretty Green Day, which are my favorite songs on that album. um, the rest of them are not very Green Day. They kind of sound like if John Lennon joined Weezer and then he turned it into a folk band. Like,
Nah,
but like
that's me, John Lennon,
in a good way.
in a good way.
So it's not bad. It's not a bad album. It's just that most of it is not appealing to me. So okay, so that's a whole other thing, and I would have to spend at least an hour. Well, not me. You, you and me discussing music. Music is such a complicated thing. Um, yeah, that's a whole other episode. That might be our next episode.
Yeah,
um,
I'm
yeah,
sure. Like Torble. Torble likes music.
yeah. Let's do that. So
So I know.
about the games.
Yeah. Very like awesome, but they're good.
What about that game Hell Let Loose?
Hell Let Loose, that's a Xbox game, but it is pretty good.
Yeah,
Hell Let
tell me
Loose.
about that.
Okay, so you know I have like Call of Duty and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So Hell Let Loose is basically none of that. It's the actual like it's a tactical game. It's strategic. You need to have like actual strategy to play it. You can't just run and gun like you do in COD. You actually have to think before you do things. It's one of those games where it's like, oh, realistic. Well, because it is. It has really good graphics. And there's no like gamer tags, no nothing. So and you can friendly fire people. Basically, it's supposed to just be World War II, the game, and I'd say it did a pretty good job of completing that.
Nice.
Like if you've seen the game, like if you looked up Held Let Loose clips, you would see the game. The game did a pretty good job. I quite like it.
It sounds like TF2 players who want a more realistic experience.
Well, TF2 players can just get mods, so
I feel like, but I'm saying like I feel like a lot of people who play Hell Let Loose might be TF2 players.
I see what you mean. I mean, honestly, probably. I'm the only one. I've never found anyone else that plays Team Fortress on Hell Let Loose the more I think about it, but I'm sure they exist out there besides me. I just
Yeah,
have to go into Team Fortress 2 because that would take me eons to go over. And not many people care about a 15-year-old game, not even the creators of the game anymore. So I thought I'd not.
yeah.
Like,
One game that I'm really annoyed by is, well, I liked it a lot until they shut it down.
what would that
As
be?
you know, CS:GO, sad. Um, or at least they shut it down for me because I can't play it.
Yeah, you can't get CSGO too.
I can't see it. I can't play CS2, um, because I don't know. I honestly don't know why. They had it. They had CS:GO available for Mac, and then they discontinued it, and then they made everybody force. They forced everybody to go to CS2, and now I can't get CS2.
You see,
So
Charlie,
very
this
sad.
this is the reason you get a desktop, Charlie.
Yeah. So okay.
This is the reason you get a desktop, okay?
Desktop doesn't necessarily mean Windows.
Yes, but just get a desktop so you
You
can
see, this is why I'm more defiant. I like standing up against these corrupt media companies that want to
corrupt.
make it easy for them and not have to do extra code or whatever. I think that's stupid. They need to grow up and they need to make it available for everybody because if they want their game to grow, how else are they going to do it?
Well, you
You
see,
know?
I'm honestly thinking it might be a skill issue on your computer's part, considering you're using basically what a librarian uses to grade her teacher's stuff. So
You're right.
maybe
That was a good one, but that was also kind of a low blow because Macs can be very powerful, especially now that Apple has ramped up their chip performance creating they actually create their own chips and they're doing better than Intel. It's kind of crazy, but they that I did not expect that, but apparently the M series chips are performing way better than Intel's chips, and Intel's like crying right now because they keep sending me ads about how MacBooks are so bad, and they're crying and they whine about how they want to they want to give you their Chromebook with Intel chips, and it's like, come on, like nobody wants to buy your Chromebook. Especially not me, and I especially don't want to get your Windows computer or whatever. I'm good. I'm good
why
with
not,
the stuff.
you you should at least get like a Dell laptop, dude. I mean, come on.
So, if I'm really desperate, I might, but at this moment, I'm not that desperate. I don't really understand the fixation. I don't get it. The
Well, first of all,
fixation on Windows. I'm I'm a connoisseur of graphics and of like UI design. The user interface is very important to me, and I feel like Mac's user interface is just so beautiful, and unironically, it is actually beautiful. Um, that sounds really pedantic, and it is, but like, it's good. It's good.
I see. Well, one thing I can name you is you know how many more opportunities you would have if you got yourself a laptop? Do you
I
know
understand, and I had to
how much
make a few sacrifices, but not many, because I don't actually. I'm not. I'm not a hardcore gamer, and I have a Switch, so most of those games, I honestly don't care about performance that much, and most of those games are like a lot of them are on Switch, not all of them though. So that's why Overwatch is accessible to me.
I see.
So, um, all right. So, do we have any other topics we want to discuss? Any queries we want to get answered?
Not in particular. I suppose we can wrap it up after it's
Okay.
been like 65 minutes.
It's been about 71 minutes. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, so uh I would say this has been a pretty successful episode. It's taken us on a journey. It's taken us on a very interesting adventure of talking about basically every kind of game that we like, and that was the point. And I think we fulfilled that. I think we accomplished that. But
Yeah,
yeah, it's pretty cool. Just wanted to say thanks for joining us on the fifth episode of Dialogue Lab. Thank you so much. Again, I'm Creations Lab, and this is Soup Can. And thanks so much. And I we can sign off.
indeed.
All right. Thank you. Goodbye.
Adios.